Hello and welcome back to REV Endurance Sports, and you don't have to adjust your television set or check your watch. This is 2025. It's actually August of 2025. And there's a previous video where Matteo came to my shop with a Trek Speed concept with these tubular wheels, and I was the only shop that said to him, no, you really don't need a new bike. If you like what you have, it's fine. So that's the reason for that other video. But this video is going to be about tubular installation. Now, tubular tires, tubular wheels, all that stuff has really fallen out of favor because clincher tires were easier to install. And then tubeless came around where now, we can seal a puncture while riding, which we couldn't really do with clincher. So this video is not so much about the virtues of tubular, but along the way, I might throw in a few things. So this is not so much a retro grouch video, but for many years, I glued my own tubular tires because I didn't want to saddle the shop with doing the work. So I ended up learning how to do it myself way back in 2003, 2004 timeframe. So 20 plus years ago, and I actually still have some of my tubular wheels. Super light wheels, climbing wheels, but you just don't want to deal with puncturing on a tubular tire. So let's talk about, from a 30,000 foot view, of what is required for a tubular installation. First thing you need to do is, in this case, this is a used rim that we are replacing the tire on. So let's address it that way. You're going to, at least the way I like to do things, you're going to remove this old glue. I don't know the history of it. I didn't glue these wheels on for the customer. I don't know how many layers of glue are on here. So just to be safe, I'm going to strip this down to the carbon. In this case, there are aluminum tubulars out there. Actually, I have a set for my fixed gear bike that are tubular with a Campagnolo hub, just a beautiful set of wheels. And so you can get them in aluminum or in carbon. Right, so there are many different methods to get the tubular glue off. So I'm just gonna use acetone, and you'll notice that I'm sitting outside of my shop. It doesn't matter how much ventilation you have in an inner space, it's never going to be as good as outside. So hopefully it's summer or spring where you are when you watch this video. All right, so I'm going to use acetone, hence why I'm outside. Obviously use some safety equipment, so gloves and glasses, goggles, and or a respirator. If you know you're susceptible to fumes and you don't have enough ventilation, get a respirator. I like Blue Scotch Bright because, they call it zero scratch, but it's also a lot gentler on things like carbon wheels. So you'll need to scrub with the acetone, scrub that old glue off, and then a prep. So after you've scrubbed all that off, you clean it with alcohol, and then you prep that rim and then clean it with alcohol again, right? You want to kind of just very lightly rough up the surface, all right? You're going to do the same thing with your tubular tire. Now, I don't have the tire in stock. I ordered it, so I should receive it tomorrow. But you're going to also rough up the surface of the base tape of your tubular tire. All right, so now we've cleaned the rim, We have prepped it as far as with alcohol, it's clean. The tire has been scrubbed. Now you start the gluing process. Now, it's debatable how many coats and how long, but I'm going to give you what I believe is the safest way as a bike shop that I would do this evolution. I would put a layer of glue on the tire, a layer of glue on the rim, and let that sit for 24 hours. So this is important too, because you have to manage your expectations. If it's Friday night and you have a cyclocross race on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, you're out of time. So you need to plan ahead of time, right? Today is Tuesday, and I'm trying to get this done by Friday. So I've got enough time frame set aside. Right. One coat of glue on the rim and the tire, and let that sit for 24 hours. That first coat of glue on the tire, it's pretty much just going to saturate and soak in to the cotton base tape or whatever material it's made out of. On the rim, again, a light coat of glue. It's almost like painting a house. You paint in thin coats so that it has a better chance of drying before you go and apply another coat. Apologize that my nose is running. I'm a little under the weather today. Right. After about 24 hours, then put another coat of glue and another on the rim and the tire. Let that sit for 24 hours. You're trying to allow each layer of glue, and they're thin layers, to dry and cure properly. After your second layer, put a third layer on, and while that glue is still wet, you will mount the tire. And that's where the fun begins. I didn't mention this earlier. You want to pre-stretch your tubular tire. So in other words, the tire that I'm waiting on to be delivered, as soon as it gets delivered tomorrow, the first thing I'm going to do with that tire is mount it onto a rim and inflate it to the maximum pressure, because I want to stretch that tire. It's been in storage, who knows how long, and it was probably pressure tested at the factory, and then after that, fold it up, put in a box, and I don't know how long it's had a chance to constrict. So mount that tire, inflate it to maximum pressure, could be as much as 160, read the sidewall. All right, I didn't mention that previous, and I'm sorry. But also, what you may want to do is, after you've done your second coat of glue, you may want to remount that onto a rim. And what you're trying to do is kind of, the first coat kind of seeped into the cotton base tape. The second coat was a good coat, probably now is something that can bond. But you want to break that up a little bit, because you just want to. It just makes it easier to mount the tire. So remount that onto a rim once it's dry. And then you'll put that wet coat on, and then you'll mount it onto the tire. Now this is where the wrestling begins with you and the tire. And what you want to do is mount the tire starting from your valve stem. Mount the tire, and as you're mounting it, you want to stretch, pull, almost like when you're putting on a gator skin tire, clincher tire for one of your friends who just doesn't have the finger strength anymore, right? So you pull, you get some slack, and you get over. You want to try to lift as much as you can, because as you are going over the rim, you may, well, first of all, you're going to get it all over the rim, so you got to clean all that up. So the cleaner the job that you do, less cleanup afterwards. But also, you may shift that glue over a little bit. So that's important too. And you want then to center the wheel as much as possible, spin the wheel, and look at it and see how it's mounted. Now, a lot of this is done on a truing stand for me, but I didn't want to bring the truing stand out here. But generally speaking, putting the glue on, that's on a truing stand, and letting it dry on a truing stand if you don't have any other projects going on, and or lay it flat, right? So if you don't have a truing stand, just lay it flat. Once you've got your tire back on, or on, then look at the, and I'll show you when I get to this part of the job. You want to look at the base tape, and clincher and tubeless tires have the same thing. They have a little line that goes all the way around, and you want that even spacing all along the rim. And so if you see it, you know, you have a lot of room between the line and the rim. You're going to see it on the other side, that line is really close to the rim on the other side. So center the wheel, center the tire. Keep in mind, it's never going to be perfect, and that's okay. I don't know that the tire actually over time centers itself, but to be honest, you don't notice a difference if it's just a little off. Make sure you have that base tape or that line equidistant all around the rim on both sides, and you're going to be fine. Now let's talk about what happens if you puncture out on the road. Some folks talk about sealant. I've not actually ever put sealant in my tubular tires, but what old school guys used to do, guys and gals, is they would ride with a spare tubular tire already pre-glued and strapped to the back of their bike with a tow strap. So that's real old school type riding. So anyway, that's the high level view. That's not the mechanics of it. And I've often said on my channel, this is not a how-to channel, this is a why channel. I know that other larger channels with video editors and, you know, corporate financial backing can do much better videos with multiple camera angles than I can as a one-man shop. So that gives you the highlight of how to prep, how to install, and then how to, well, when you're out on the road and you get a puncture. So anyway, I appreciate your time and your attention. I might do a series of these videos, but I thought, like anything else on my channel, it's organic. This is what came in the door. This is what I want to shoot for you today. And I'm sure that some of you have some different methodologies, especially if you're still riding tubulars. So actually, I do want to hear from those folks who is still running tubular tires on their bikes. One other thing, I believe, and I don't know enough about this because I haven't done the research, so some of you folks can make the comments down below. I believe that R&D has pretty much stopped on tubular tires and tubular rims. I think there are only a few real applications for that. I think I saw a Cycling Weekly or a Road Cycling something saying that this was the very first year, 2025, that not one pro team was riding a tubular tire. Although, I think I also saw someone's tire roll off their rim in a crash. So which came first? The crash or the roll off caused the crash? I don't know. Anyway, please like and subscribe. Let's share some old stories and war stories about riding tubular, and we will see you up the road.